Let's get to it. The Denver District Attorney's Office has begun an investigation into collusion involved in the bidding process for work on the expansion of the Colorado Convention Center. The winning contractor, Trammell Crow, has fired an employee on Wednesday who was said to be part of the situation. And we found out on Friday morning that an executive had been removed from the company and from its website, and the scandal has continued to grow throughout the week. Patty, this seems to be changing minute by minute and growing in depth. What do we know so far? What do we need to be focused on?
We need to focus on the fact that this is not the only giant project going on in Colorado. This is a $233 million project, I think, and we are partially funding it out of the lodging tax we voted for that's paying for the $1 billion National Western Center complex project. So first of all, you hope the safeguards that caught this, and by all accounts it was a very alert public works employee going through documents who somehow found some hint that not an official, city official, but two private people, one at Mortensen and one at Trammell Crow, had been comparing notes. They'd been colluding on this. So an alert city employee caught it, and it moved fast. I mean, you saw they caught it probably on Monday. It went to the district attorney's office on Monday. We got a press release on it, in a very forceful press release, unusual for the Hancock administration, saying, we're taking these actions, and crediting a public works employee. So what we have to hope is at the same time they're seeing how deep this goes, they're also making sure the safeguards are in place for all these other projects we have going on. Trammell Crow has been a big name. Bill Mosier, who used to head the Downtown Partnership, is key in it, and his honesty and just how humiliating this is was pretty interesting.
David, I realize we were very early into this situation, but from what we've seen so far, do you feel confident in how it's being handled both by the city and by folks like Trammell Crow, who are making news with who they're getting rid of on their website, on their payroll?
Well, Trammell Crow has been completely groveling in all this, and in their press releases, we're very sorry it happened. We'll cooperate fully with law enforcement. So they've said the right thing, and credit to Mayor Hancock for moving rapidly on this. There might have been some temptation to brush it under the rug and say, oh, we'll just transition Trammell Crow out, bring in somebody else new, but we'll go ahead and keep things on schedule. He did the right thing. The broader question is, why is the city involved in this anyway? If there's enough convention business that could support large conventions, that's the point of this, if there's enough demand for that out there, then some private person could build it with their own money rather than having to take it through tax dollars with all the potential corruption that necessarily involves.
Eric, now the mayor has nothing to do with this particular scandal. This is two private people and private firms, and they're investigating. But I can't imagine that the mayor wants this making headlines a couple months before an election. They're not connected, but bad headlines are bad headlines. What do you think?
Bad headlines are bad headlines, but to David's point, once you get a bad headline, once you're into the muck, then you can look like a take charge, clean the house kind of guy, and I think that's the role that Michael Hancock is trying to take here. It's a surprising story, as Patty pointed out. Trammell Crow has had a strong reputation around town. Bill Mosier is always known as a person of integrity. I don't think that's going to change here. I would be amazed if it does. I would hope this is a rogue employee or a couple of rogue employees and not permeating the corporate culture. I think it's important to note the role Trammell Crow had in this transaction. They were not a bidder for the construction work. They're basically under contract to the city as a project manager. They were managing the project and entertaining bids from other big companies. And I think if there was collusion, which is clearly what it looks like, that's where the collusion came in between the project manager and a bidding company. I happen to like, in general rule, the concept of public-private partnerships, but I think you're seeing some of the problems. This is a public-private partnership. The whole A-line issue between RTD and Denver Transit Partners is a public-private partnership, and it somewhat dilutes who's accountable, where does the buck ultimately stop.
Natasha, Trammell Crow and Mortensen are among the companies that are handling a variety of projects around the city. Big ticket ones, small ones, and have for years. Does somebody need to start digging into past projects to see if this is not an isolated case?
Well, that seems like something that a reporter will be doing in town probably right now as we're taping. I think one of the interesting things with this expansion for the convention center, it's to create a ballroom and a terrace outside as well. So I would just encourage everyone to put your dancing shoes back in the closet. The transfer delays related to this project are huge. So that's, I think, what we'll start to hear is uncovering both what happened, but then also what this does for the projections of when it would actually open. What I do want to commend, and Patty mentioned this earlier, is a public works employee who found the anomalies and researched them and asked the questions. It's a perfect example where one individual can make a difference, and even in a project as big as this, ask the important questions that can lead to setting things in the right direction. So kudos to that person.